All right, good day everybody. Wanted to show you an update on my latest part of my build project. For those who are not familiar with this project, my phase one was putting a dynamic LED strip in the back trunk space to sort of mimic rear, driving lights, so to say, red, with a controller. I'll post a video here or down in the description wherever YouTube lets me put it. This is a mock-up of that with the LED strip inside a light tube plus the controller. That project is about this piece here, and what I want to talk to you today about is sort of phase two, which is the stuff over here and this guy. The intent is to essentially build a remote controller that wirelessly communicates between the master and this guy, which would be the slave, just to display status of the LED lights and the sequencing that they have, and allow me to do some simple controls. The idea is this is essentially an OLED screen with a controller that is hiding back here. I'm using they're called Node MCU Minis. They're ESP8266 microcontrollers, live in the Arduino world. There's two of them. They both communicate using a protocol called ESP-NOW, or not a protocol, but a feature that Espressif, the manufacturer of the chips, built to basically have secure communication over wireless. Sort of a form of Wi-Fi, but you don't have to join a Wi-Fi network. They basically find each other by MAC address, they link up securely, and then they talk to each other only. I suspect somebody could hack it, but not that I'm worried about what that would mean. It's not a big deal. Maybe they can flash my lights remotely while I'm driving, who knows. Anyhow, so I'm sort of going to talk you through and show you some demos on how these things work and what I'm intending to do here. But essentially it sort of started with this. I thought, hey, this is a nice display, and a lot of other people have put the overlays that you get from MX-5 things. Right now, I'm shining a light there, but you can see that what it tends to display is the passenger seatbelt warning plus the airbag warnings, right? Those, it's a light tube basically that guy there shines through based on these LED lights. So, I wanted to, it's upside down, I wanted to, integrate that OLED into this, but I also didn't want to interfere with the status settings. So, and I'll show you this in a second, but basically I built an overlay that has photoresistors that watch these LEDs that actually will render graphics on the OLED screen that will then again fit in there. In terms of fit, the intent was to obviously replace this with this OLED, but as you can see, it's shorter, it's not as long. So what I did was I have a plastic piece in there that I've cut and inserted using double-sided tape, and I actually printed off some vinyl decals, black matte vinyl decals that I must say I'm quite impressed by how well they match the black matte of the Mazda. I'd say it's almost an exact match. So anyway, the idea is that they, and I'll show you this in a little bit, but the display fits in there quite nicely and hides the edges which show the electronics. So with that, what I want to do is, and I've had kind of bad luck, this is like my fourth round of doing this video. I've had some bad luck of every time I fire these things up, I get a bug that I got to go debug and fix. So again, the idea is that the way this thing works is that I don't have these funky lights shining and flashing and doing all kinds of crazy stuff while I'm driving. They just turn on when the lights come on, either via automatic mode or when I actually turn the lights on themselves. And you'll see right now when I powered up the sequence that's initiated. I apologize for the lighting. You probably won't see them as intensely and as brightly as they should show. But basically when they come on, you'll see a sequence here. This light tube right now in the LED strip that I have in here is actually shorter than one in the car. So it's actually not showing you all the sequence. You're only seeing sort of half the sequence. So just bear in mind when you see the rest of everything there. So that's a Larson mode, if anybody's familiar with the kit car from Knight Rider when we were kids. That is the OLED. It has a startup display of Miata, and then it shows you the status. The LEDs are on, and it's in Larson mode. I'll show you really quickly the two triggers for these guys are watched by this. So the idea is that this is going to I'm gonna basically glue that over top of there, and then when light is shone onto these guys, you can see that it's watching them, and it's checking the status and displaying the status of the actual two alerts. Of course, the light has to be intense, and it's going to be, I'll be setting it measured based on the intensity of these LEDs, which are quite bright actually. So that does that. There's also a mode here where this is going to be, currently right now I just have a push button, but it's going to be something I merge into here with some sort of push button switch to allow me to toggle the different modes. And you can see that this is what failed before, but let's try it again. So it changes the mode here. Nothing's done on the lights until I tell it, but basically in this case I'm saying both, so it's going to do both the Larson and the bounce mode, and you'll see that in a second when I trigger it. So I'm going to click and hold the button. You'll see it say sent, and then you'll see this guy fire up. Yay, it's working, finally. So now it's going to do the Larson. It goes back and forth to both sides, and then it'll trigger, after that, it'll trigger the sort of bounce in mode. Again, you're not seeing everything here because it's not the full strip length of that's on the car. There's like 66 LEDs on the car that are obviously all being addressed. In this case, I think I only have like 24. There's also a mode here that after this is triggered, it's just now sort of running lights, right? Just like the rest of your car has running lights, but it also has a mode where this guy's plugged into both the power for the rear lights. And that's actually what powers the whole thing, at least this side of it. And then it also watches the brake light, and you can see here, if it shows, when you put the brakes on, you can see that it triggers an intensity sweep from center to left and center to right, obviously on the other side that you can't see here. And if you look at the screen on the right there, the OLED, it goes into a mode of, showing that the brakes are on or off. Not that I'd be looking at this when I'm driving, of course, it's just for fun, really. It's just to let me know that the thing is alive and it's actually doing its job by showing me states of operation. If I'm stopped, for example, and I want to look and see and make sure everything's okay. So that does that. In terms of, I'll take this guy out and show you what it looks like on the screen. Try to trigger a little reboot here, or sorry, show you what it looks like inside. So I'll trigger a restart just to show you what it looks like when it starts up. And I can put pretty much any graphic I want in there that fits. Can do some animations with it. It's a very crude library. It's actually not a very high resolution display. I have been searching for others, even some color stuff, but it's very hard to find something of this size that could fit in here because there's not a lot of real estate and room in behind there for this to fit. So essentially that's what I'm looking at doing. I was originally looking at, to deal with the switching here, I was thinking of the Miata RF controller that has sort of an up and down feature, and it actually uses basically, I think, the same thing as these guys here. Two buttons. You can see they're not here because I don't have the RF. But I didn't want to interface or interfere with the electronics in the car. I want to build it completely isolated from that. So I've been grappling with different options, including hacking these out of junkyards and cars and different vehicles, looking at something that's a toggle switch. But I found that my hope to have these completely separate switches became what you get in your typical home remote control, which is, a plastic switch, a silicon contact point, and then contact points on the board. And I don't want that. I don't want to have to hack that. So I thought about 3D printing something and making my own, and then I'm like, it's not going to work. It's too much work. So I'm now looking at just sort of push buttons, illuminated push button, simple push button that I can just cut out and put into that to actually, again, trigger that mode change on the screen. And it uses, I'm able to do it with one button, and I'm using a special library that detects, short presses to scroll, and then long presses to initiate the send of a signal change or a sequence change to the actual controller to actually then trigger that. So that's where I'm at so far. Again, I'll post links to the actual, you can see it alive on the car right now. That is the controller from the car, this right here. It plugs into the other strip that's actually, the strip that's currently on the car and operates that one. And then once I get this going, the two will talk together and I'll be able to do, have some fun. Why did I do it, you're probably wondering? Because I can. often don't have a reason to do these projects other than I want the challenge to figure out how to do something somewhat complicated and without, you know, really getting into messing around with the car itself. I like to try to keep isolated from the vehicle. Like I can easily remove all of this stuff without, you know, impacting much more than popping out the screen, you know, and placing it back with this if I had to. So that's, you know, one of my goals was that. Again, videos in here. Please, if you liked what you saw, please like the video and subscribe. Always love to have the support and interest. I'll be also posting the build part for this. This build part is already posted on my blog. You'll see the link below. I'm going to post the build for this as well as a phase 2 with like BOM, and I'll do a schematic and whatnot of the different components and whatnot. Sorry, I also forgot to mention I'm just using simple light LDR photoresistor sensors here just to detect change in light from essentially dark or near dark to something brighter, and it just knows the difference between that by some threshold. It uses a voltage threshold that the photoresistors generate. Again, like and subscribe, please. Check my blog. I'll also be posting on Miata.net the progress of this. Thanks for watching, people. Take care. Bye.